right, let's jump right into this, because today we are embarking on a voyage into what is honestly one of the most thrilling, foundational, and just flat-out enduring stories ever told, Homer's Odyssey. We're not just dusting off some ancient poem here. We are exploring the absolute birthplace of Western literary fiction. It's a massive story about survival, terrifying monsters, divine wrath, and the unbreakable human spirit. So, get comfortable, because we're about to set sail on literature's ultimate journey throughout this explainer.
Okay, to really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this epic, we have to look at the timeline. And it's a mind-boggling 20-year stretch that completely defines our hero, Odysseus. First off, he spends 10 brutal years fighting the Trojan War. But even after his brilliant Trojan Horse trick finally wins the war for the Greeks, his struggle, it's really only half over, because then he spends another agonizing 10 years just trying to navigate the Mediterranean Sea to get back. Think about that. That's 2 full decades of total absence from his kingdom of Ithaca, his wife Penelope, and a son who literally had to grow up without him.
And you might be wondering, how did this massive 20-year saga survive across millennia? Well, it survived through exactly 12,109 lines of poetry. But here is the truly staggering part. Early on, this wasn't a book you could just go buy. It was an oral tradition. Illiterate bards who were known as rhapsodes memorized and performed every single one of those 12,109 lines entirely from memory. They used this complex rhythmic heartbeat called dactylic hexameter, and they would literally improvise and weave these metric lines live in front of huge banqueting audiences. It was this living, breathing performance that just kept evolving over hundreds of years.
Now, to really get to the heart of this story, we've got to anchor ourselves in one specific core ancient Greek concept, and that is nostos. Basically, this translates to a homecoming by sea, and it represents a successful, glorious return. You see, while other heroes like Achilles chose to die at Troy just to get eternal fame, Odysseus is totally different. His entire existence in the story is defined by his desperate driving desire for nostos. He just wants to survive. He wants his mortal life back, his family back, and his home back.
But I mean, a smooth, easy trip home doesn't exactly make for an epic story, does it? Almost the second they leave Troy, things go horribly wrong. The crew decides to make this early detour to raid the Cicones, which ends up being a total disaster and a bloody retreat. Then, they get blown way off course by a massive storm and land among the lotus eaters. And this is wild. The crew is offered this sweet, intoxicating fruit that basically acts as a powerful narcotic. It completely wipes their memories. They forget their nostos, they forget their homes, their purpose, everything. Odysseus literally has to drag his own men kicking and screaming back to the ships just to keep the journey alive. So, as Odysseus sails further out into these terrifying, completely uncharted waters, his survival starts to hinge on one sacred rule: xenia. This was the ancient Greek code of guest friendship and hospitality, and it was a huge deal. You have to remember, we're talking about a world without hotels, without embassies or smartphones. So how you treated a stranger who just washed up on your shore, and conversely, how that stranger behaved in your home, was the ultimate measure of how civilized you were. As we go through this explainer, you'll see that every single monster, god, and ally is judged strictly through the lens of this one cultural rule. To see just how deep this rule ran, let's look at the absolute extremes. Imagine the best and worst hosts imaginable. On one end, you have the ultimate good host, King Alcinous of the Phaeacians. This guy takes in a completely shipwrecked, naked Odysseus, bathes him, throws massive feasts in his honor, showers him with gold, and even gives him a safe ship home. Then, you have the ultimate bad host, the Cyclops Polyphemus. When Odysseus and his starving men politely asked for hospitality in his cave, Polyphemus responds by sealing the door shut with a massive boulder, smashing 2 of the men against the floor, and eating them raw. It is just a terrifying, brutal violation of civilized society.
So, they're trapped in this cave with a flesh-eating giant, right? But this is exactly where Odysseus proves why he's known as the most cunning of all the Greeks. He manages to get the Cyclops incredibly drunk on this super strong wine, and when the giant asks for his name so he can offer him a twisted mock gift, Odysseus simply replies that his name is Nobody. So later that night, when Odysseus blinds the sleeping giant with a sharpened wooden stake, the Cyclops wakes up screaming in total agony. His monstrous neighbors outside hear him and yell, "Who's hurting you?" And he screams back, "Nobody is killing me, nobody." So confused, the other giants just shrug and walk away. Pure genius.
The whole escape is just brilliantly engineered. He gets the monster dangerously drunk, blinds him, and then literally ties his men underneath the bellies of the giant's own sheep so they can slip right out the front door undetected. It's a flawless, perfect plan. right up until they sail away. Because then Odysseus is completely overcome by hubris, this massive, excessive pride. He just can't help himself. He boastfully shouts his true, actual name back to the shore. And that tragic flaw, it gives Polyphemus exactly the specific information he needs to pray to his dad, Poseidon, the god of the sea, who then curses Odysseus to wander the oceans in misery.
And man, the devastation of that divine curse is just absolute. I mean, Odysseus leaves Troy with a proud, massive armada of 12 ships. But shortly after, they encounter the Lastrygonians. These are a terrifying race of giant cannibals who literally pelt the fleet with massive boulders. And just like that, only one single ship survives. And it gets worse. By the time this mythical phase of the journey concludes at the island of Thrinacia, that number hits 0. That's right, 0. Not a single ship and not a single crewmate is going to make it back to Ithaca with him.
From there, the nightmare just deepens as they plunge headfirst into a realm of pure, unadulterated magic. They get trapped by this witch goddess, Circe, who literally drugs the crew and turns them into pigs. Odysseus barely survives that one, and only because the god Hermes gives him this magic protective herb called moly. But right after escaping her, they sail straight into the territory of the Sirens. These are creatures whose enchanting songs literally hypnotize sailors and lure them to a watery grave. The solution for this one? Pure wit and willpower. Odysseus orders his men to plug their ears with beeswax, but he has himself lashed tightly to the ship's mast. That way, he can actually hear the song without jumping to his own death.
But immediately, and I mean immediately after the Sirens, they face something even worse. They have to pass through this incredibly narrow strait. On one side, you've got Scylla, this terrifying six-headed monster. On the other side, Charybdis, a massive, ship-swallowing whirlpool. So I have to ask you, put yourself in his shoes. How do you navigate a path where both choices guarantee tragedy? Odysseus has to make the agonizing decision of a true leader. He actively chooses to sail closer to Scylla. He willingly sacrifices 6 of his very best men to the monster's jaws, just so he can save the rest of the ship from being completely sucked down to the bottom of the ocean by the whirlpool.
Ultimately, all of this relentless, non-stop torment just completely breaks the crew's discipline. They had received explicit warnings from the underworld prophet Tiresias telling them, whatever you do, do not touch the sacred cattle of the sun god. But they're starving, and they cave. While Odysseus is asleep, they slaughter the herd. The consequence is immediate, and it is absolutely devastating. The sun god Helios demands justice, and Zeus obliges by annihilating their final single ship with a massive lightning bolt. When the smoke clears, only Odysseus survives.
He eventually washes ashore on the island of Ogygia, and this is where he truly hits rock bottom. He spends 7 whole years here as a literal captive of the beautiful nymph Calypso. Now, most mortals would probably take the deal she offers, immortality with a literal goddess. But Odysseus? He spends his days just weeping on the beach, staring out at the sea, mourning for his family. He is completely paralyzed, totally unable to move forward, until the goddess Athena finally intervenes and convinces Zeus that enough is enough. It is time for the hero to go home.
So Athena gets him a ride, and he finally reaches the foggy shores of his home, Ithaca. But if you think the story's over, think again. The physical journey might be done, but the internal war has just begun. On day 1, Athena disguises him as this elderly, wrinkled beggar so he can safely scout his own land. By day 2, he manages to secretly reunite with his grown son, Telemachus, hiding out in the hut of a loyal swineherd. And then on day 3, the tension spikes. He boldly walks right into his own palace, a total stranger in his own kingdom, quietly plotting his revenge.
And let me tell you, revenge is desperately needed here, because his home has been completely infested by 108 boorish, aggressive suitors. For years, these men have just been sitting there, eating his food, drinking his wine, and terrorizing his entire estate, while aggressively trying to force Queen Penelope to marry one of them. Penelope is actually brilliant in her own right. She managed to stall them for 3 whole years with this clever trick where she'd weave a burial shroud for Odysseus' father by day and then secretly unravel it every single night. But eventually she got caught. Her time has run out.
So you might expect Odysseus to just kick the doors down and start fighting, but instead, this final act plays out as an incredibly tense, calculated game of cat and mouse. Still disguised as a beggar, Odysseus starts quietly questioning loyalties, very slowly revealing his true identity to a select few. And in return, his family doesn't just blindly believe him, they execute countertests to prove he isn't some imposter before they finally reconcile and plot their attack. It's this heavy psychological tension that entirely dictates these final chapters.
The tension finally snaps when Penelope announces an impossible contest. She says she'll marry the man who can string Odysseus' massive, great bow and shoot an arrow straight through a row of 12 axe heads. It is literally impossible for these guys. One by one, all 108 of these arrogant suitors step up, and they fail to even bend the wood enough to string it. And then, the disguised elderly beggar steps up to the line. Amidst all their mocking laughter, he effortlessly strings this heavy weapon in one fluid motion, plucks the string so it sings like a swallow, and fires a single arrow seamlessly through all 12 axe heads.
The entire hall just falls dead silent. And then Odysseus turns the bow on the suitors. What happens next is a scene of just ruthless, fast-paced vengeance. With the help of his son Telemachus and a few fiercely loyal servants, who had actually snuck around and hidden all the suitors' weapons beforehand, Odysseus executes a bloody, violent justice. It's a slaughter that had been foreshadowed by these dark bird omens throughout the entire epic. He reclaims his throne, utterly wiping out the men who tried to steal his wife and his kingdom.
But wait, because Penelope, who is absolutely the equal to her cunning husband, holds back one final, absolute genius test. She casually orders a servant to go move their marriage bed out into the hall for him to sleep on. Hearing this, Odysseus just explodes in anger, blurting out the deepest secret they share. That bed cannot be moved. He built it himself, meticulously carving one of the bedposts directly out of the trunk of a living olive tree that was rooted straight into the ground. Only the true Odysseus could possibly know that. Boom. The ultimate test of identity is passed, and they finally joyfully reunite.
It's really wild when you think about the staggering legacy of this 20-year saga. I mean, it practically shaped the entire Western literary canon. It was adapted into standard Roman school texts by Livius Andronicus way back when. Jump to the Middle Ages, and Odysseus pops up as a tragic figure in Canto 26 of Dante's Inferno. In 1922, James Joyce literally borrowed its entire structure for his modernist masterpiece Ulysses. Margaret Atwood gave us this brilliant, fresh, feminist retelling from Penelope's perspective called The Penelopiad. And pop culture is still obsessed with it today. Just look at the Coen brothers' hit movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
So, after all of that, what does this all mean for us? Why does this specific story survive the test of time? Well, it survives because underneath all the cyclopes, the angry sea gods, and the crazy magic, it is a deeply, universally human story. It's about resilience, it's about wit, and it's about that desperate, universal yearning for home. If the Odyssey truly is literature's most enduring narrative, it really challenges us to look at our own lives. When you're navigating the storms and the monsters of your own modern world, what is your nostos? What is your ultimate journey home? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.